So thank you so much, everybody, for joining me today. I hope that you get out of this talk what you're looking for, and that you get a basic grasp of fundraising, and it gives you some tips and tricks on what to do to help with your fundraising. Can I just confirm you can all see the slideshow, that the front page of that slideshow on the other side?
Yep, all good.
All good. Okay. So, how many of you are first-time writers with hands? You can just pop your hand up, give me a bit of an indication. Okay, so it looks like most of you are return writers. So then how many of you are returning writers with hands? Okay. All right. Well, look, some of you may have seen this video before, but I wanted to share the short video with you, and it'll just give you a bit of an understanding of our origins and the work that we do.
Tens of millions of tons of waves started at speeds of as much as 500 miles an hour. Nothing and no one can stand against them.
It is so widespread, it's almost impossible to fully gauge tonight.
Kilometres of villages there were completely swept away.
Tsunami charged inland across a flat coastline.
Across the region, 80,000 people are dead.
These are predicting the number of dead reach 100,000.
Which perished on sport of the Boxing Day tsunami.
The true death toll will never be known.
The force of the wave was much greater than people imagined.
Leaving an estimated 1 million without shelter, clothing or food.
It was one of the worst disasters in living memory.
The world has never faced a humanitarian disaster.
Candles were lit and placed on the beach as mourners paid respect to the victims.
The clean-up is also underway. Recovery is more than rebuilding homes.
Supplies are beginning to trickle in.
These boxes of food and clothing are heading to the people.
Aid effort, by far the biggest ever known.
It's amazing how much strength the waves had.
I guess looking at the real impact on those that were left behind. These kids are in a pretty desperate state. The kids lack the basics: clean water, food, potential medication. We're serious about it, which we absolutely are. It's around being there for the long term. Everyone in their own capacity has done a lot to get here.
To ride with the kids and see them and their smiling faces, and as I said, you do it again.
Just going beyond what you thought was possible. It's just a really, really beautiful feeling.
The needs of the children, their needs haven't gone away.
Absolutely life-changing.
There's nothing but beautiful smiles here, beautiful kids.
They're just like immersed in love, really, at this place.
You can just see that the money's being put to good use.
It is the most rewarding thing I've ever done in my life. It's priceless, absolutely priceless.
And so today, Hands supports 350 plus children across 7 homes and projects in Thailand. And the kids who come to live in a Hands home are there because they have no choice. And it's usually a result of one of 3 heartbreaking reasons. So they either have no family to look after them, they do have a family member who is known to them but is just unable to look after them, or they're living in an unsafe environment and have been placed in our care by the police or government. So the money raised and entrusted to hands to bring about change is used to provide the life-saving necessities for those in our homes. But more importantly, it supports many families in an outreach program that keeps kids out of our homes. We know that the best place for kids, when all things are equal, is in a family. But when that doesn't exist, we provide a home for the kids, which really is just one big family. And for those of you that have been involved with Hands for a long time, you know that we believe that all children deserve the chance to build a future full of possibilities and opportunities, and to achieve their dreams. So just as important as filling their bellies with healthy food, our role is to help them see the opportunities that lie before them and help them to live that life of choice, not chance. So ultimately, your support enables us to do this, and the support that you'll be asking from your network will really help us to continue to bring this life-changing work to fruition. And you can learn more about Hands by scanning the QR code or visiting our website, but it sounds like a lot of you are very familiar with the work that we do. Then in saying that, a lot of you would know this lovely gentleman, Peter Baines, who is our founder. Now, investigating homicides and leading international teams into scenes of crisis and disaster is not your traditional path to a charity leader, but it's how Pete started. And it was his work in Thailand after the tsunami that brought the biggest change to Hands. Now, because of this man, we have made such an impact. And the difference that we make, it's not measured in the numbers of homes that we built or the dollars raised or spent or the kilometers that are ridden or even the number of children that we care for. These are important, yes. And, as you can see by the impact that we've made on our screen, it's impressive. But for Hands, we measure our impact by the choice that we create for the kids when it comes time for them to leave our homes. We want to invest in their education while they're with us and then continue to support them after they leave. And we believe that by doing this, we're going to have the greatest impact on their future. And we're, not only helping them with their immediate needs, but helping them plan for the future. And an increasing number of our children are entering into university and doing that, continuing their studies after high school, which is a really, really impressive thing to see. And it's really what we're all about. So how do I bring this back to you? Because you're probably all sitting there saying, we know this story, we know about Hands, what's next? So what's important is that you connect with your passion. So I want you all to have a think about, what is it that connects you to Hands? What made you join our ride in the first place? If you've done a ride with us before, can you share stories from your previous ride that have inspired you to come back time and time again? What's your motivation to do this ride? When you can connect to your passion and can express that effectively, it's so much easier for you to get people on board to support you. So I think understanding yourself, why you're doing this, and being able to articulate that will allow people to connect with your passion. Now, we've had several people who have jumped on rides with us time and time again. And here are some of the pointers that they've had. So, host trivia nights, remind people that they need to help you, that they're doing this for a good cause. Start fundraising early, use social media and local media. Don't be afraid to ask, and that's a big one. Too often people are really, really shy or intimidated by asking, and it's so important to remember that if you don't ask, you're not going to get. The worst that can happen is somebody will say they're not in a position to support you, and that's okay, but you have to ask. And Jeff continues that, ask everyone, ask more than once. Share your weekly fundraising status. So where are you up to? What's your goal? Where are you so far? Keep people abreast of what you're doing. Keep them involved in that journey. Again, Saha says, use social media to reach a wider audience. Make it personal. Follow up with them. So there are a whole range of things that other people have already done in their fundraising technique that has helped them reach their goals. But don't take my word for it. We have the lovely Miranda Murray, who has ridden with us time and time again, and she's a long-time supporter of Hands. Miranda, are you there?
I am, yeah. Hi.
Lovely,
Thanks for having me.
So Miranda's going to share her story and what has worked for her across her fundraising efforts. And I guess, Miranda, if there was any challenges that you came up against and just any advice that you can give other riders.
Yeah, sure. Hi to everybody, and thanks for joining me. I'm hoping that I can share some light around what myself and my husband Daniel have done in our fundraising over the years. I first got involved in Hands in 2014, or 2013 really, was when I started my fundraising for the 2014 ride. And I came to finding Hands through my own personal journey of going through a marriage breakup and a fertility struggle that was unsuccessful at that stage, and really wanted to find a worthy cause that supported kids where I could mother in other ways. And my beautiful girlfriend in New Zealand, Carol Spence, who's also a rider and riding again in January, told me about Hands Across the Water. She'd seen Pete speak at a conference she'd been to, and she said, "This is an amazing charity. It's Australian based." I was living in Perth, and she shared it with me. And so, of course, I was in hook, line, and sinker. And then she told me that there was this amazing adventure fundraising ride. I was sponsoring a child at the time, and I thought she was crazy. She said, "Come on, love, a 75-year-old have done it and a 14-year-old have done it, so of course we can." And over several bottles of good Kiwi Sauv Blanc that weekend, we got courage and we signed up. And so off I went back to Perth, and I had to announce to the world that I was signing up. I'd signed up for this magical ride. Everyone thought I was having a midlife crisis, but got behind me. And what I found that first year was probably one of the easiest years for fundraising for me, because it was something new for people in my networks. They were amazed and bewildered that I was doing something so courageous and brave and out of the ordinary for me. And so I was getting a lot of donations from just people, friends and family. And from there, there was some bigger donations that came in, but a lot of them were just me reaching out, sharing what Hands was about, sharing Pete's story. And that first year, that's how the donations were generated. We loved it so much that I signed up for the double ride in 2015, and I went back, sucker for punishment, and did the double ride back to back, which meant that I had to raise $20,000. But not only that, on that first bike ride, I met my now husband, Dan, who was already a Hands rider for many years, right from the inception. And so as a couple, we had to raise $40,000. But it wasn't impossible. I actually moved interstate from WA to New South Wales, and we still managed to do that. So if we could do it, you definitely can. We just had to get creative. And so that year, knowing that we had to up our numbers, we held a 24-hour spinathon, and we approached our local gym in Sydney to get behind us. And we asked friends and family, again, colleagues, to collect all of their friends and family and colleagues and create teams. And so then we had teams of people coming, which meant that we'd 10x'd the fundraisers, really. We weren't doing it all on our own. It was other people going out to their networks, and it worked really well. In that one event, we brought in $35,000 that first year that we held it. In the one event, it was exhausting, don't get me wrong. We were up for 24 hours. We got creative, though. We had like a midnight rave class where we handed out glow sticks to the people. We did pizza party. We did popcorn movies. We also crossed live to a couple of the homes, which was beautiful, because then people could actually be invested themselves and see why we were doing it. They could connect with the kids, they could speak to the staff. The service wasn't always fabulous at the homes, but even just having a few minutes of that contact and that connection made such a difference for people who hadn't had an experience with Hands before, to then connect more deeply and understand why they were doing it and see where the money was going. And that was really powerful. The following year, we decided we'd do it again, but we'd change it up. And so we did a 12-hour spinathon. We weren't actually riding that year. Dan and I were doing IVF in Sydney and we couldn't commit to the ride, but we still wanted to bring in the money. And we found that people still supported us, even though it wasn't us that were doing the ride. We brought in the storytelling again of why we were doing it. It was for the children. It was something bigger than our adventure, our crazy adventure that we'd done for a few years prior. And that second event still brought in $27,500. So
sorry, Miranda, I'm just going to interrupt you really quickly. I can see a couple of messages saying that the sound is not ideal. Is this any better as time is going on? If you can just nod your head or shake your head, or yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, my apologies.
Put your hand up because it could be island life as well. We're based on Bribie Island, so if it cuts out, it might be island life. But yeah, I think you're right, Curly. I think it was just the video that was cutting in and out.
Okay.
Yeah, so guys, don't get disheartened by thinking it's impossible, because if we could do it in those events and even do it on the years that we weren't cycling, people do get behind you. I think the thing that we found and do continue to find challenging is that the more often we do the rides and do the fundraising, the more creative you have to get. Like, you can't keep tapping into Auntie Bev and Uncle Don or whoever it might be for their $20 here and there, because as we know, times are tough. Not everybody can afford to continue to support a cause that we are passionate about. And that's where I think the storytelling again comes into play, get people invested in it themselves, creating that awareness, but also getting really creative about how you're bringing in those dollars. The final year that we did the spinathon in Sydney, which was third year of the spinathon, we thought, right, we're going to have to really up the ante and find a new way of getting people invested in this. And so we took it outside into Darling Harbour. There were a lot of logistics involved in that, obviously dealing with the council, but it was worth it. We tapped into Dan's corporate networks. He comes from banking and finance, and so we had the likes of PwC getting on board. And what we found was there was a lot of competition within the organisations, and there were different teams from different departments who were playing off each other. And so we had a team raising $2,500, and another department within that organization wanted to beat them. And the other thing that came into play was then we had very generous partners of those corporate organizations matching what their staff were raising. And so suddenly we went from $20 here and there from family and friends to $2,500 from a team being matched by another $2,500 by the corporate partners out of their own pocket, and some of them out of the budget from the organization. And that event raised $75,000. So tapping into the corporates for sure was the game changer for us that year. It was a lot of work, don't get me wrong. Putting together an event like this is huge, but it's not undoable or non-doable. And if you want any tips after the call, or you want to talk to Dan or myself, then please reach out. I'm happy to share our details so that we can give you some tips if there's something like that you want to do. I know another rider, another Dan Coppard, did a spinathon off the back of seeing our first one in Auckland as well, and he raised some decent money doing that. So totally happy to share further the ins and outs of doing that, and the pitfalls, the things we learnt, what we wouldn't do again, and all of those things. I think to make up numbers, that was another year that we weren't riding, but in some of the future years, the last time we rode together was 2019, and we had to get more creative again. And what I've found with to accompany any of our fundraising is just being creative. Dan and I actually eloped up to Home Hug in 2016 and got married with Matthew and the staff up there. And in lieu of having wedding presents, we asked friends and family to donate to hands, and that went into our fundraising. The same thing with birthdays. We quite often will do that. Thank you. We quite often do that. Love and Lycra, it's a thing. It exists. Be careful if you're single, you might find a partner on one of the rides. We've done trivia nights, fun trivia nights through lockdowns in Sydney where they were virtual like this. Dan's got some cool programs that he used, so we're also happy to help you navigate that if you want some more information, where people could just use the QR code, the friendly QR code that we're all familiar with these days, and play from home, and we'd make it fun. Like, everyone has to wear a crazy hat to this one, or dress up in something, and everybody got on board, and it was a fun way of engaging people again in the charity to share what we were doing, but also giving them something to do, something fun. And I think that's important when you're thinking about trying to get fundraising and money from people who haven't been invested in hands before. Is there's always a question of why this charity, and why not something closer to home, all of those things. And we quite often, we'll say that's a great question. This is something that we're passionate about. We understand that there are organizations here in Australia that also need our support and charity, but the social services are not the same over in Thailand, and they don't have access to the same amount of funding that we do here. And this is something we're passionate about, and actually raising money here on the ground in Australia and providing schooling and education and health to these kids is really important. What else did I do? I'm looking at my notes here. I did a September challenge with some girlfriends that I could get on board. They didn't want to get involved in any kind of cycling. They said, yuck, no way. Lycra is not my thing, and I'm not sitting on one of those tiny seats. And so we did a September challenge where they were in different states, but we all agreed that we were going to walk a certain number of steps. In September, I've also done a Rocktober challenge, which I just set up for myself, and I just made up some crazy challenge of 80 Ks walking and 800 crunches by the end of October type thing. Just something fun to get people involved, and you just need to talk about it within your networks, ask people to share it with their networks. I think, as Lisa was saying, don't be afraid to ask. What we found a lot is the biggest donations quite often came from the least expected places, the people that we didn't expect to be handing out as much money as they did. So don't ask, don't get is always our theory.
Absolutely.
And as Lisa said, the worst they can say is, I'm sorry, I can't contribute and I can't commit, and that's completely okay.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us, Miranda. And I hope, there's a lot of good ideas that Miranda's given you there. So I hope you've all been taking notes. And while we're asking, people who have experienced it, I also have Irene, who works with the Hands team, who has seen firsthand. So she's on the ground once the riders have started riding, and she's often the person that gets all the questions that comes in about fundraising and what she can do and how we can help people achieve their goals. So Irene, if you're around, I might get you to jump on quickly and just share a couple of words with your experience.
Hi, Lisa. Hi, everyone. So my name is Irene, and I've been working with Hands for 9 years now as the ride coordinator. And it is lovely to see familiar faces and new ones. So hi, Raj. Hi, Peter. Hello, and thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. From what I have experienced and heard from previous writers, it always starts with great storytelling. They always say sharing their personal story about what they are participating in the bike ride and what the cause means to them. They are connecting emotionally with potential donors to inspire their support. And as Lisa shared earlier, they always say, don't forget to ask, and ask more than once. I've heard this many times from the writers. Some who you think will support you more, and those you think won't give often do. So you have to really go hard. I've also heard about sending personalized thank you notes or emails to their donors. Of course, expressing gratitude for their support, sharing with them how their contributions are making a difference. We've also have different riders also take different approaches to raising the money, and it's always the case of finding out what is going to work for you, and you plan out your campaign, and you have to plan and start the campaign early. Using also different social media channels such as Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, email campaign, Facebook fundraiser is always a hit. Facebook fundraiser. Some uses wedding, Christmas fundraiser. And don't forget to always give updates on your training and your preparation for the ride. According to many riders, they always get more donations when they do live, Facebook Live during the ride. And also when they, especially when they see the kids at the end of the ride, seeing the kids, seeing the riders have done the 500 or the 800-kilometer ride with all their efforts in doing the ride and the fundraising. Also doing social media challenges. We have had riders who did 100 kilometers rowing endurance challenge and racing 6K and did a spin-a-thon challenge the next day. This is Raj that I'm talking to. Maybe we can hear Raj's story later on today. He can share his inspiring story with us as well. What else? Movie night, having a raffle, bake sale, and trivia night. This one is also very common, the trivia night. And I think that's it. And I guess you just need to start early and plan your campaign early so that you can focus on your guide. Enjoy the training. Enjoy the training later on. And of course, not every idea will always deliver you the best result that you're hoping for. But if you do nothing, then nothing will change. So you really have to do something about it. And with your training and fundraising, don't forget that we have our resources center. We have stacks of collaterals that you can use there, and the team is always here to help if you need anything regarding your ride, your training, and fundraising. Thank you all.
Thank you, Irene. Really appreciate you sharing that. And Raj, we may get you to speak later. I'll work through the slides, and if we get some time at the end, I would love for you to share your story as well. But look, as everybody has touched on, you can share our story too. And I think that's a really, really important part of fundraising, is being able to share the story behind the charity that you're supporting, and then why it means so much to you. Now, most of you will probably know this lovely gentleman. I'm going to share a couple of stories about our children, but as it seems like most of you are return riders, you know of all of them. But we've got Game, who came to Bantam Nam Chai when he was young, about 11 or 12. He unfortunately never knew his parents and was living with an aunt and uncle, who unfortunately said to him that if he wanted to continue living with them, he was going to have to leave school and go out and get a job to help around the home, or he would have to leave the home that he was living in. Thankfully, one of Game's teachers saw the potential in him and put him in touch with Bantam Nam Chai. And because of his time with there and with the support of Hands, Game has now graduated with a law degree. He's completed his MBA. He's currently the director of Bantam Nam Chai, so I'm sure a lot of you have met him at the end of your ride if you're riding into BTM. And he's been given an opportunity to complete his PhD at the University of Canberra in Australia. So Game is that perfect example of, coming full circle, helping them realize their potential and just giving them that life of choice, allowing them to reach their full potential. We also have Mook, who similarly at 11, her father passed away, and she had already lost her mother some years before that. A lady in her village introduced her to Kunrachana, who I'm sure a lot of you know about. She would later become the director of Bentham Nemchai, and Kunrachana put her into a boarding school. Now, after the tsunami happened, Kunrachana moved to Khao Lak to help the children who were left behind with no family, and she insisted that Mook leave the boarding school and come with her to Khao Lak, where she could continue to care for her. If you ask Mook, initially she didn't want to go, but she's really, really glad that she did, as this was the turning point in her life. And now Mook has been able to finish her schooling, complete a bachelor degree in English business in university, and she's been living in Sydney for the past 3 years, working with media merchants. So again, just a beautiful example of that full circle. So these are just a couple of the stories that you can share, and in our resources, I'm sure we've got links to other stories that you would be able to share, and you can always ask us. And a lot of you who have done the right have met some of these children and know their stories, and or sponsor them already and understand their beginnings. And so use those stories to help explain why you're connected to the cause. So a couple of fundraising goals that you should all have. Start early, set little goals, and aim high. And I'm sure you're reading that saying, that's great, but how? So I've got a few pointers for you. So first of all, define clear fundraising goals. So start by setting specific and achievable fundraising targets, and determine how much money you want to raise and by what date. So having a clear goal will give your efforts focus, and it'll give your efforts direction. Break down the fundraising goal. So divide that total fundraising goal into smaller, manageable targets. So for example, if you're raising $5,000 for your ride, you could set a monthly or a weekly target that adds up to the final amount, and that will take that pressure off you looking at that big 5,000 number. You know you only have to raise X amount of dollars per month before your ride, which is why it's also important to start early, because that will give you a longer lead up time, making those goals a little smaller and more manageable. Create a fundraising plan. So develop a comprehensive plan outlining the strategies that you're going to use, and that will help you reach your fundraising targets. So this can include organizing events, online campaigns, reaching out to potential donors, leveraging social media, and both Miranda and Irene shared a whole variety of ideas for you that you could use, and that would help you achieve your goals. Start fundraising early. This is a really, really big one. The sooner you begin, the better. Don't wait until the last minute, because that's just going to lead to rushed efforts, missed opportunities. You'll start to panic. You know, you're then clutching at straws. You're asking people. You're anxious. It's not worth it. If you start early, it'll allow you to spread the workload, and it'll just give you more time to engage potential donors and really be able to share that story and your connection to the cause and why you're doing this. Segment your supporters and think about who they are. So who are you asking to support you? It might be easier for you to divide them into groups based on their interests or giving capacity or their relationship with you or their relationship with hands, and tailor your fundraising approach to each group to make it more personal and compelling. So, you know, if you're asking a family member who knows you well and knows your interests and understands why you're doing this, then it might be easier to share with them a personal experience that you've had and ask them to support you for that reason. You know, for somebody who doesn't know who Hands Across the Water is or understand your connection with it, explaining who we are, the work that we do and why it's so important, you know, making that personal approach with them could help and can make your storytelling compelling. Use multiple fundraising channels. So different donors will respond to different things. So diversify your fundraising efforts. Use different channels, so email campaigns, social media, in-person events. Again, Irene and Miranda touched on a variety of things, you know, spin-a-thons, trivia nights, baking. Every single donor is going to respond to something different. And if you're, for example, reaching out to a corporate sponsor to get behind you, you're going to have more of a proposal that you're going to give them. It's going to be more of a formal approach as opposed to your, community that you've got on social media. You can make that much more casual. So just, again, it's understanding who your donors are and then making sure that you take advantage of all the fundraising channels available to you. Engage your supporters. So keep them engaged throughout the fundraising process. And that means regularly updating on the process of your campaign and thanking them for their contribution. Make them feel valued, make them feel appreciated. We had a target of raising $500 at this bake sale, and we raised $550 thanks to your wonderful support. So keeping them updated, keeping them on that journey with you so that they stay connected. Consider matching donations. So that could be from businesses or donors who are giving higher amounts to your campaign. Now, it's not for everybody, but if you can make it work, matching donations can incentivize others to give, and will help you reach your fundraising targets faster. Everyone loves a good competition or a good match or one-up. So if you can find a group of people, and like I said, it's not going to work in every industry, it's not going to work with every group of donors, but if you can make it work for you, and I think Miranda touched on this with the corporates, where one team was donating and another team was matching it. It's a really great and efficient way to raise those larger amounts of monies. Monitor your progress and adjust. So regularly track your fundraising progress, what's working, what's not. Not everything is going to work, and it's more important that you just give it a go. But if you review your strategies as you go along and be prepared to adjust the approach and try new tactics, you will get there. But you're going to have to constantly review what's working, what's not, and work through that process. If it's not working, why is it not working? And have a look at what else you can do to get people involved. Don't forget follow-ups. So follow up with potential donors who've expressed an interest, but they haven't contributed yet. Sometimes a gentle reminder can promote action, and don't be embarrassed to do that. In most cases, people have genuinely forgotten that they've agreed to give to you. You might be asking people at a party, especially with family, where it's such a casual exchange of asking for that support. And of course they want to get behind you, but it may just slip their mind. So don't be afraid to follow up. And people appreciate the little nudge. I know I'm guilty of that, where I say, yep, gonna do it, and then completely forget all about it. Life is busy, so just make sure you're following up. Don't be embarrassed to follow up. Don't be embarrassed to ask again if you have to. And finally, celebrate the successes. When you achieve your fundraising targets, your little ones, celebrate that success. You've worked hard to get there, and so you deserve a pat on the back. But also use it as motivation and inspiration to keep on going. You achieved that first little goal. Great. What worked? What else can we do? And use that to keep on pushing, but celebrate it. It's a hard job. Fundraising is not easy. So, when you do hit those little goals, make sure that you're congratulating yourself. Also, as Irene mentioned before, we have our fundraising guide that you can download from our website. So, get creative, have fun with it, make it fun for you and your supporters. It doesn't have to be a scary or intimidating or serious process. There's lots of ideas that you can do, and the girls touched on them before, but, again, birthday, wedding, Christmas fundraisers. Don't give the gift to me, contribute it towards my fundraising goal. Facebook fundraising, and we've got some a how-to guide to get your Facebook fundraising up. Sausage sizzles. Ask your family and friends, put posters up, send emails around to your colleagues, run your own auctions with donated prizes, or run a bingo or a trivia night or a karaoke night and ask people to contribute funds to be there, or host a dinner or a cocktail night, connected to the cause by making it at a Thai restaurant. There's so many fun things that you can do with it. And the list can really go on and on and on. But however you choose to fundraise, just make sure that you're considering your costs and you've calculated your break-even point. So you just want to make sure that it's successful. There's no point if you're investing thousands and thousands of dollars in running an event and you're not getting that return. that's not a successful fundraising campaign. So just, make sure that whatever you're choosing to do, you are always working through your calculations and making sure that it actually is worth your time and investment. And we've also got a fundraising budget online that you will be able to download as part of our resources to assist you with that. A couple more tips. So you need to spread the word. You've got to get the word out there. How can you do that? So use social media. And social media can be a game changer for fundraising. We're in such a fortunate position these days where we do have this digital world that we can take advantage of, and it really gives us a wide audience. So using your social media is like having a massive stage where you can reach tons of people and connect with potential donors and rally a community around your cause. So it really gives you a large platform to speak on. Think about who you will ask to support you. So the most obvious place to start would be with family, friends, colleagues, but turn to your social media contacts as well, your local businesses, your local community. Support doesn't necessarily have to come in the form of a donation. So if you say, I'm going to run a sausage sizzle, and you speak to your local butcher, they may be generous enough to donate the sausages to you. And that's a cost that you're not having to spend, and they are supporting you in that way. Or they may, donate something to your raffle or a venue for the event. So it's saving you costs, and it's allowing you to do those bigger scale fundraising activities without having to invest that money. So just think about who's in your network, who might be able to help you, who can give you access to those things that may be quite costly, and they might be able to give it to you for a discounted price or potentially for free. And then make it really easy for people to support you. So have a clear call to action so people know it's exactly what you want them to do. If it's a donation that you want, give easy instructions for how they can donate, and it shouldn't really be more than 3 steps involved in making your donation. The more difficult it is, the more people give up. It's too hard. I can't be bothered. So make it, make your ask direct, make it clear, and make it easy. You can set up a fundraising page on our website, and that happens automatically, if I'm not mistaken, Irene, as soon as you sign up for the ride. And we've got simple steps on how you can take advantage of that in our fundraising guide as well. So just make sure that you're using all the resources that are available to you. Finally, and I think we've all hounded this point home, if you don't ask, you will not get. So make sure you're asking. And it seems like an obvious one, but so many people are just too embarrassed to ask for a donation, or they feel like they don't want to pressure the people into giving, and therefore they miss out on opportunities. Just always remember, if you don't ask, you won't receive. People want to support worthy causes. They just need to be shown that your cause is worthy of their support. And your network is going to be proud of you for standing up for something and will want to support you and get behind you. So just make sure that you're throwing those asks out there. And I think that, both ladies touched on this earlier. Those that you expect are going to support you probably won't. And it'll be the people that you least expect that will actually step up and support you, which is why it's so important for you to just throw it out there. There's nothing wrong with it. Remember, you're not asking for yourself. It's for a cause and for a greater cause. So there's nothing for you to be embarrassed about. Worst case scenario, people can't help you, and that's okay. But don't miss those opportunities by not asking. And you may have to ask more than once, and that's also okay. Don't be embarrassed to do that. We've also created email templates for you to share with your contacts. So you can use those to help you share the stories, to help you get that direct ask out there. And it can also be found in our fundraising brochure. And you've also got access to our image libraries. So make sure you're using those photos. If you're doing Facebook posts, if you're sending emails, or you're building them in MailChimp, use the images that we've got. Really tell those stories. It's just so important to get the story out there as best as you can, because that's what's going to ultimately lead you to the most successful fundraising campaign. You've got this. So just remember that we're here to help you along the way. Do reach out. We'd be more than happy to help. Again, if I'm not mistaken, this webinar itself will be available online for you to access if you want to. But we're here to ask, we're here to help. So the team are always on hand. A special thank you to Miranda and Irene for sharing their stories. And I guess at this point, does anybody have any questions? Or if not, Raj, if you wanted to share your story, we would love for you to do that.
Thanks, everyone. So nice to see new faces, and yeah, I did quite a lot of things that you guys mentioned here, especially asked more than once. I had a Facebook campaign, and I sort of like designed it over a period of 10 weeks or so, and kept asking, continuously changing the story and asking different things. You know? So I did that. And also, I was told never to be embarrassed to ask. So I just kept asking. And they're my friends, by the way. They're my people that I keep sort of saying, you're my people, you know. And they sort of like, they sort of say, oh, no, that's Raj, you know. He's my mate. So there's no reason for them to say no. Some of them were saying, Raj, this year's pretty tough. I can't help you, right? And it's okay. Take them out for a coffee anyway, you know. That's kind of important. So that gratitude coffee thing is very important. What I did a little bit different this year is I approached 2 dentists who actually are fixing my teeth, and I sort of said to them, I'm interested in the dental care or dental hygiene of the kids in hands. Would you like to help me, right? So I was just focusing on one thing that they were good at, and what I said to them is, I'll go to Thailand, take your logo and take a photograph with Peter Baines, and Peter Baines had a little dialogue or video made up for them, and I sent it to them so they can plug in into their own website to say that they are, generous donors themselves, right? So I was giving them a reason to donate, not only just to donate, but they become a supporter. So I tried that with 2 organizations. Special needs is my area of passion, and so I approached a organization, NDI's organization, for them to donate. So I told them that money will go to special needs kids. Well, it goes to the big pile, but you know, at least they knew. I did a video with Peter Baines. Peter Baines thanked them. Roy was on the right, and we sent it off to them. During the ride, I did something crazy. I created a character called Mr. Piney. Mr. Piney was a pineapple, and it's all represented a $50 note. The pineapple is like the $50 note. So I went around sort of creating a pineapple, and every weekend or every week I would say, oh, Mr. Piney and I are doing something silly. You know, we just created that. And I said, $50. That's all we can give, $50. So every time, rather than just $20 a pound, I started saying, give me $50, give me a pineapple, right? So I divided the whole campaign to pineapple. I set a target of $7,000, and I ended up strangely with 11,000. I wasn't expecting that, but I just wanted to do more than 5, and I got the 7, and then I went to 11, right? Not as amazing as Miranda, 75,000. That's amazing, but that's a target of the name. So this year, I'm not even sure whether I'm going for a ride yet, but I'm committing to raise 20,000. So, and that's what I'm going to do. The other thing I did was the night before I flew out, I rang every donor on the day. And I said, hey, I'm actually leaving today for the ride. Thank you so much for helping me out, so forth. And follow me on Facebook, right? I wasn't expecting any money during that time while I was riding, because I exhausted the whole capacity, but I just wanted them to share the story. Coming back, now I'm catching up with every one donor for coffee, right? And so even if they gave me $10 or 20, I'm still taking them out for a coffee to share my story, right? Because I want them to be the donors for the next time and to get their friends involved. That's basically all I'm doing. As I said, Peter and Terry, I'm not sure yet. but I still want to raise 20,000 for the SNATS campaign. My campaign's already started. That's it.
Thank you, Raj. And that's amazing. And he touched on a lot of the points that we had spoken about and how important it is to ask, have a story, have a theme. The pineapple idea is fantastic. You know, you're creating a character, you're taking people along for that journey. And the thing I love
funny thing about the pineapple was people were asking me about the pineapple during the ride. How's Piney going? You know, oh, he fell off the bus. What happened to his eye? I lost the eye, you know. So I made him into a pirate. So the story just kept on going.
Exactly.
Even towards the end, I had to say goodbye to Piney at the ocean. And I said, oh, Piney, see you next year. It's just to finish it all up. So it was good.
Yeah. And you're keeping people engaged. You're keeping them connected, which is so important. And, you know, it speaks to taking people along on that journey with you. The part I love the most is that you called everybody before you left. That's brilliant. You know, I'm leaving today. Thank you so much for all that you've done to this point. You're keeping people on that journey. Keep an eye out for me while I'm on the ride, and you're doing those updates. It's really about storytelling and connection. Thank you for sharing, Raj. That's amazing. Any other questions from anybody else, or does anybody else want to share from a past ride? No?
Happy to.
Lisa, oh, you go, Victoria.
Sorry, yeah. I've done most of 2 rides. We had a slight accident last year, so we ended up in the bus with a broken leg. Not me, my husband. And I thought I should kind of sit with him and be nice. But anyway, so 2 years ago, well, before COVID was my previous ride, and we had a wine and cheese night at the local surf club. They donated the room and they helped us out with some of their suppliers that came and put little stands out around the room for some local breweries and some local vineyards. I went down to the IGA and bought about $300 worth of cheese and some raffle tickets, hit up my clients for some prizes. So it cost everyone $40 to come in. The suppliers actually paid for the beer and wine out of their marketing budget, so it didn't cost me anything. And then we waited for everyone to get a little bit tipsy and then sent the kids around selling raffle tickets with a square reader, and we made about $3,500 in one night. So it definitely worked. It did take some promotion. I sent it out to clients. I had it on Facebook, and there were, luckily the timing of it, we got quite a few of the local nipper mums who decided it was a great idea to come out on a Thursday night and have ample vinos, which then made them put their hand in their pocket for ample raffle tickets. So it was a good event, but just something to think about.
Thank you. That's fantastic, Victoria. And again, some really great ideas there. Okay, well, I am conscious of time and that everybody, I'm sure, wants to get off and have their dinner or start prepping. But thank you so much, everybody, for joining, and thank you to Raj, Miranda, Victoria, and Irene for sharing your stories. I hope that you've all taken something from today, even if you've taken one little tip, that's something. And please remember, we are here to help you along the way. Like I said, this webinar will be available offline, but reach out to the team and we will be more than happy to help you where we can. Have a great night, everybody, and thank you so much.